All right, welcome back to the Protocol Town Hall, which is a guest talk series occurring every 2 weeks focused on protocols and protocol research. If you'd like to suggest a speaker to have on our series, please send us a message. Today we are talking with Angela Walch, a Summer of Protocols researcher, about her project titled The Protocol System Experience. Our next town hall will be on Wednesday, October 11th with Joanne Yates. So with that, I will hand it off to Venkat to introduce Angela for us today.
All right. So really excited to get this part of the program kicking off with our researchers reporting out on what they did over the summer. And also you just briefly saw a flash of the new website that Josh is starting to put together. So excited about that too. So thanks, Josh. But yeah, Angela's been a law professor working on like smart contract and like crypto stuff for the last 10 years, but she decided to make a big change and quit and pursue wider fields. And the Summer of Protocols was her sort of coming out party, I guess. And we're going to hear all about the journey of people through protocols, which I believe a lot of other affiliates in the program were also inspired by and did things with. So take it away, Angela.
Great. Hi, everybody. I am so excited to be here and to get to share with you a little bit about what I've been working on over the summer. And actually, I've been working pretty hard on these issues for the past year and a half and been thinking about them probably my entire adult life. So this is a huge culmination, and we'll see if what I say makes any sense. So I'm going to share my screen with you now. Sorry, this is my first talk in a long time, so I think this will all work. But let's try that one more time. There we go. Okay, everybody good with my screen? Okay, great. Okay, so my project is called the Protocol System Experience, and that is really just what it is, okay? So our Summer Protocols program has asked us to spend time looking at the concept of protocols. And in our intro meeting, the image of the blind man and the elephant came up. And that's where everyone is touching the elephant in different places and trying and comes up with their own view of what the elephant looks like. So we've had all the different researchers and affiliates feeling out protocols over the course of the summer. And this is where I have come up with, this is what I have come up with. So on this cover slide, you see this person named Pip. Pip is our participant in protocol systems who is going to take a journey through them. So we will hear more about Pip as we get going. Okay, so I just have kind of a little reflective quote that I would like to offer you as we get started, and you can kind of percolate on that in the background. Okay, so this is a quote from this book called The Creative Act by Rick Rubin, the music producer. And I've been reading a lot of books about creativity lately, and this excerpt really spoke to me and connected deeply to my work on protocols. So the most deceptive rules are not the ones we can see, but the ones we can't. These can be found hiding deeper in the mind, often unnoticed, just beyond our awareness. Rules that entered our thinking through childhood programming, lessons we've forgotten, osmosis from the culture. These rules can serve or limit us. Be aware of any assumptions based on conventional wisdom. Rules obeyed unconsciously are far stronger than ones set on purpose. Okay, so I came to this program very interested in the idea that we often are not fully aware of all the rules that we are following in our lives. We are actually often, I think, unconscious of them and go about our routines in a habit. It was very interesting to me to see that this was actually kind of mentioned as a benefit of protocols in the pilot study that kicked this program off. It was talked about how protocols are a way of kind of extending what humans can do together by making certain things routine to the extent that we don't have to think about doing them, right? Those routinized behaviors become foundations that are pretty solid so that we can use our cognitive bandwidth and efforts to go further. So these protocols, if successful, build an infrastructure for our behavior. Okay, so the project, as I said, is called the Protocol System Experience. And what I realized that I've done is I've kind of built a framework of what it's like to experience a protocol system. I've kind of laid out some structures, I've built a vocabulary, and I'm overlaying this on protocol systems of all types, whether they are blockchains or nations or families, your university, your career, whatever. We were asked to swing for the fences in this program, and I guess that's kind of what I did. So, you know, this may be a big swing and a miss, but it is a big swing nonetheless. So, as I said, we are going to be thinking about what it feels like for this one person to go through the protocol system experience. And the parts of the framework that I'm going to take you through today are what things are. I'm going to let you know what I think a protocol is and a protocol system, what you do, how you feel in a protocol, who you meet, and where you go. So some very basic categories. And what I think this framework can be useful for is some actual kind of personal analyses that you can do. And I think that understanding protocol systems from a personal level can end up helping in the aggregate as well, because sometimes protocol systems feel really bad for the people that are in them, but we don't necessarily have a way of talking about that. And I'm hoping that, you know, just kind of describing what I've seen can be a helpful tool for people to discuss these issues. Okay, so let's keep going. All right, so here's Pip, our person in the protocol. As you see, it's a neat acronym, and Pip is also a nickname for peregrine, like the peregrine falcon, and that means a traveler, right? A journeyer. So that's who Pip is. And we see here Pip in the protocol system. I'm going to give you a definition of that in just a moment, but this is my visual image of a protocol system. The protocol itself is kind of the circle around it. It's the rules, the traditions, etc., that govern the behaviors of all the people within the system. So Pip is just one of many people in the system, but we're focusing on his individual or her individual experience. Okay, so Pip is very busy because Pip is not just a member of one protocol system. Pip is a member of countless protocol systems. We all are. I am, you are. We live in protocol systems. They are all-encompassing in our lives. So all these different systems that you can see Pip right here. He's participating in the protocol system in the middle. In other places, you see Pip right before he's about to enter the protocol system. You can see him at the moment of entry. You can see him at the moment of exit, and you can see him after he's left the protocol system in the aftermath. Okay, so I think humans are kind of like bundles of protocols. So I'll just name a few of my own protocol systems that I participate in, right? One's in my family of origin, where I am a daughter and relate to my parents or my siblings in certain ways. My own current family, where I'm a mother and I relate to my children, and I'm a wife relating to my husband. My career over the years, right, as a lawyer relating as a lawyer to a client, as a law professor to the administration, to fellow researchers, the community, to my students, etc. In my religion, as a parishioner or a follower, relating to other parishioners and like preachers and other people in that system. Okay, so I think if you reflect on your own kind of, I am what, right? I am blank. You can start to kind of come up with an inventory of all the protocol systems that you are participating in your own life, right? I am American. I am a wife. I am a former Catholic. I'm a former lawyer. I'm a former law professor. So you can see I've got a lot of formers in there, which has been part of the thinking process. Okay, so we're bundles of protocols. So let's get into the framework now and start off with this first element, what things are. Okay, so when I say protocols, I have a very broad definition of that. Protocols I see as they're signals that humans receive that tell us a desired way to behave, right? It can be something that forbids you from behaving a certain way, that requires you to behave a certain way, that sometimes they're like enabling guidance that you receive, right? If you do these things to form a corporation, you will get this beneficial legal treatment, or if you say these words to enter into marriage with someone, you will get all these other benefits. So I see this as a huge bucket, okay? So it's because of the breadth of my definition, it fits things like rules, regulations, traditions, social norms, policies that are set up, taboos, customs, standards. Protocols are the guidance, okay? So big bucket. Okay, the other thing that it's important to know for this framework is what a protocol system is. This is where a protocol meets people, essentially. So, right, so the protocols are the signals to that identify what is desired behavior. So you have a protocol, you add a group of people, and those people do things in relation to the protocol. And that leaves you with a protocol system. Okay, everybody in the system together. So, right, systems are, when we think of systems generally, we think of different forces and people interacting with one another, right? You think of an ecosystem, you think of how all the different parts of it interact. Same with, like your body systems, your digestive system, or whatever, or a blockchain system, all the pieces interacting. The ones where humans meet protocols and do things in relationship with protocols, that's my claim of what a protocol system is. This term has come up, or this concept has come up in for some of the other projects in the Summer of Protocols program. Sarah Friend, in her work on Good Death, talks about these as worlds. She sees her worlds are what happens, or what is created when a protocol is brought to life. I think that's very analogous to what I'm talking about here. Okay, so we've got the basics now. We've got what protocols are and what protocol systems are. And we've got the concept that we are all participating in numerous protocol systems. And we enter those protocol systems at any point during our lives, right? We are born into a number of protocol systems, right? That our parents and our communities, our nations even kind of auto-enroll us into, right? Think about the things that go on your birth certificate, your gender, who your parents are, your citizenship, your race, right? These are all human categories that have protocols associated with them that you are born into. So you enter into protocols throughout your life. You participate in protocols throughout your life. You leave protocols sometimes throughout your life, or sometimes you can die participating in protocols and inevitably die participating in protocols. Okay, so just that background again to kind of situate us. All right, so what does Pip do once Pip enters a protocol system? Okay, so I see Pip as taking on a role in each of the protocol systems that he participates in. Okay, so these are some of the roles that I've already named that I happen to participate in, but you can make a list or an inventory of the different roles for each type of protocol system. So, right, in a medical protocol system, you've got doctor, you've got nurses, you've got the staff who doesn't want to let you speak to the doctor, you've got the patient, you've got hospitals, the people who manage the medicines, right? All the different roles in that medical protocol system. In a choir, you've got a conductor, you've got all the different voice parts, you've got people who reserve the space and get copies of music for everyone. In a blockchain, you will have different roles like a validator or developer, nodes in the network, people who build on top of the blockchain system. So these are the what happens basically, the role that you take on once you enter this protocol system, once you kind of break through that barrier and come in. Okay, so you perform your role, and I think there are also some, I call them archetypal functions, which maybe that's too fancy for this, but it's basically common tasks that people do within protocol systems. And these tasks relate to the existence of the rules, right, of the protocol. So you're doing something in relation to the rules. And I think that there are kind of, you can maybe categorize these different tasks of the protocol system into whether they are supportive of continuing the existence or longevity of the protocol system, or whether they kind of undermine the ongoing existence of the protocol system. So here you can see, I won't read all of these aloud, but you can see what I've called some supportive functions. these supportive archetypal functions of what people do, right? They perform their role. They might create a protocol, persuade others to follow it. They figure out the qualification system for new participants. It might be auto-enrolling, welcoming new participants. There's an education function, education or indoctrinating. I think those are two different things. You might go through a gaining of awareness or insight, which I'll talk about a little bit more. I think autonomy is a very important concept in relation to protocol systems. People maintain it. People decide whether others are performing their role or following it. You might have justifiers to say, well, this is the way we do things and why. Loyalty building, etc. So I think these are common functions, again, that can exist across all types of protocol systems. And every protocol system may not have all of these functions performed, but I think they'll have a lot of them. Okay, here's some examples of what I call undermining functions. And you'll see that some of these have a little asterisk at the end because, and so did the ones on the supportive functions, because I think that some functions can serve to either undermine or support the protocol system. It's just kind of what effect they're going to have. Okay, so ones that might be undermining, helping participants to gain awareness of the protocol system. And you might say, that doesn't make sense. How can that be undermining? Well, I think there are definitely some types of protocol systems that kind of rely on their participants not having awareness of their participation in the protocol system. And maybe when they gain awareness, they might not want to be in that protocol system. So it can be kind of an undermining it to help people see the protocol system. Maybe giving education on kind of the a non-indoctrinating type of education where you're talking about positive and negative aspects, power structures, possible alternative protocol systems, might be advocating for change, assisting people who do not follow the protocols, of course, failing to comply with the protocols, maybe building an alternative, recruiting them to join your alternative, leaving it, fighting against it. Okay, so these, what's important to remember about the archetypal functions are that they are actions kind of in relation to the rules, the protocols of the system, and they're either there to help prop them up or to kind of tear them down or undermine them. Okay, so it's taken a while, so I try to maybe speed up a bit so that we can have some time to discuss. Okay, how it feels. So this whole section of the framework is really what drew me to the project in the first place, because I was feeling pretty bad in a number of the protocol systems that I was existing in. I was noticing as I was examining different protocol systems in my life, such as my religion or my family dynamics or parenting or career, etc., that there were a lot of commonalities in these different domains where I was seeking to understand things better. Like podcasts would have very similar themes for deconstructing or leaving a religion, and deconstructing or leaving the legal profession, for instance, or changing your parenting protocol. A lot of very similar type structures across different types of protocol systems, which I wasn't calling them that yet. I was just calling them areas of my life where I don't feel right. Okay, so in this portion of the framework, I develop a language and kind of organize a way of thinking for assessing for yourself and describing how it feels to be in a protocol system. And so there's three main kind of concepts here that you can take a measure of, right? It's kind of like taking your temperature for the protocol system that you're in. You can assess your well-being, you can assess the fit of the protocol system for you, and you can assess the autonomy you are exercising within it. So these all interact, these concepts interact in various ways. So let me just tell you a little bit about what I mean by them. Okay, so well-being. This is basically how fulfilled and content you are in a protocol system. Okay, how does it feel for you? Do you feel happy? Do you feel sad? Do you feel trapped? Do you feel free? Those kinds of ideas. Now, your well-being, right? You'll have a unique measure of well-being for each protocol system that you exist in, right? Your family, your religion, your education, blah, blah, blah. And each participant in a protocol system will also have their own measure of well-being, right? Some people may really have great well-being in one protocol system that another person is utterly miserable in. Your well-being is a dynamic, right? A changing status. It is captured in a moment in time. Your well-being can obviously fluctuate over the course of the time that you're within a protocol system. A high level of well-being in a protocol system I call thriving. A low level I call dysphoria. And of course, there would be gradations of both of these, thriving and dysphoria, kind of a mild, moderate, or severe level. So let me tell you a little bit what it looks like when you're in a thriving state and you're in a dysphoric state. Okay, so if you're thriving in a protocol system, these are some of the things you might be feeling, right? They all sound really good, actually, to me. Happiness, peace, confidence, self-validation, success, freedom, fulfillment, authenticity, trust in yourself and your intuition, hopefulness, openness, lightness. This all sounds really great. Dysphoria sounds like the opposite, basically. Sadness, conflict, uncertainty, shame, failure, self-hatred, external validation, apathy, coercion, being trapped, turmoil, acting apart, not trusting yourself, hopelessness, hiding, and pressure. So I assume that everyone would rather be thriving in a protocol than dysphoric, but maybe not. Okay, so these are the states of well-being. Okay, the other aspect of how it feels is what I'm calling fit. So your fit in a protocol system is basically, it describes how natural your role in the protocol system feel to you. Okay, so you can measure these separately for role and the protocol system as a whole. Okay, and just like in measuring well-being, this is an individual measurement for yourself. It changes, it can change over the course of your time in the protocol system, and your fit will be unique to you and unique to each protocol system that you're in. Okay, your fit impacts your well-being. If your fit, the better the fit you have in the protocol system, of course, the better your well-being is, and the worse the fit is, the worse your well-being. So here's a lovely visual of what it means to have a good fit and a bad fit, right? So in a good fit, who you are is pretty close to what your protocol role is. By who you are, I mean your internal perception of yourself, right? We could have a long discussion about what the self is and how all this works, but we will save that for another time. If you have a bad fit, who you are differs from what your protocol role is. So I think that this person who is this free spirit probably feels like they have a bad fit and maybe are more dysphoric in their protocol role if it's very different than who they feel they are. Okay. So moving to autonomy. So autonomy is I think it very strongly affects your well-being within a protocol system. And I've set out what I think it means to act with autonomy in a protocol system. Okay, so I'll just go through these and then we'll take it apart a little bit more. So if you have autonomy in a protocol system, that means how you're making your decisions and taking actions within it. Okay, that's what it's referring to. And so to have autonomy, you must have both awareness into the protocol and your role in it, and insight. You're in a state of insightful awareness is what I'm calling it. And this is, your awareness and insight are both about your role within the protocol and the protocol system itself. Okay. You're also not being compelled to participate in a protocol system or play a particular role in it by the role that you play in a separate protocol system. So that sounds a bit, I don't know, reading that sounds a bit convoluted. Let me see if I can say that more simply. I think that there exists this concept that I'm calling protocol determinism, where your membership and your role in one protocol system, say your family protocol system, causes you to take action in other protocol systems in your life. Like it may, your role as a daughter, this is like in my personal experience, performing your role as a daughter may say, you need to join a protocol system of going to college, or playing a certain instrument, or going to a particular church. Okay, so protocol determinism, it's not that you're making an autonomous decision, I think, to enter alternative protocol systems. The role you play in one reaches out and impacts your choices for other protocol systems. Okay, and you have autonomy if you are not compelled to participate in a protocol system or take a particular role in it by fear of loss. This is a very broad category. This is like basically like the consequences that you would face by not joining a protocol system or performing a certain role in it, etc. So it could be loss of life. Like sometimes leaving a protocol system can mean that you're killed, or breaking the rules means that you're killed, whether it's something like an honor killing or facing the death penalty for breaking the rules in your state. It can be loss of health, mental health, physical health, etc. Your freedom, changes in relationships, you could be disowned. Your status, you could go from a high status position to low, or vice versa. Your resources, like your financial resources, could be lost, right? If you leave a country as a refugee, what are you allowed to or able to take with you for your sense of fulfillment? Okay, so as you can see, I have a very high standard for what it means to act with autonomy, right? You have to know everything that there is possible to know so that you're making an informed decision. You can't have other protocol roles reaching out to affect your decision. And the consequences of, like, there's not a sense of compulsion, I guess, behind your decisions that are tied to these various losses that you might suffer with an alternative one. Okay, so what impacts your autonomy? I've mentioned a few of these things, but you can I've divided it into like 3 important areas that I see impacting the autonomy that you act with. So these are your states of consciousness, your interactions with other people, and what I call protocol overhang. Okay, so your states of consciousness, I have divided these up into awareness and insight. As I said right at the beginning, I think that you can be participating in a protocol system without necessarily having any awareness that you are doing so. A good way to explain what I mean by having awareness is that you see the water. Okay, if you've heard the speech from David Foster Wallace about being aware of the terrain that's around you and how easy it is to not see it, right? He tells a story of two young fish who are swimming together, and an old fish swims by and says, "Hey there, how's the water?" And after he swims by, the two young fish look at each other and say, "What the hell is water?" Right? They can't see it. They're not aware of their surroundings. When you lack awareness, you think that this is just the way things are, rather than that there are other alternatives to the way things are. Okay. Insight is more about having deeper knowledge into the protocol system. So you understand the impact that the protocol system has on you and people outside of it, other people inside of it. You know how the power distribution works within the protocol system. And it's basically like you know about it, warts and all. Okay. And so you can have various combinations of awareness and insight. And the one that I think you're in the highest level of consciousness and thus the highest level of autonomy is if you have both of these. Okay. Both awareness and insight. And your states of consciousness can fluctuate, of course, for each protocol system for the time that you're in it, because your knowledge can change, your awareness can change, etc. Interactions with others are, of course, another way that your autonomy can be impacted. Right? These are the people that you're meeting who may be performing these archetypal functions, like enforcing the protocol, or assessing it, or justifying it, or kicking you out of the protocol system, right? Other people can make us do things, can influence what we do. So these interactions also impact autonomy. And finally, what I call protocol overhang is where, we had our nice circle of a protocol system. Protocol overhang is when kind of like a tentacle reaches out of a protocol system to do things outside of it. So it could be protocol outreach, like trying to persuade people to come into the protocol system. It could be the protocol determinism I was talking about, where your role in one protocol system reaches out and makes a decision for you, basically, in another protocol system. Protocol scars. This is like trauma or impacts that a protocol system has on you that carry on even after you've left the protocol system and can impact your decisions. Protocol afterglow is good stuff that you might take from a protocol system that impacts your decisions elsewhere. And protocol overlap is where I see like all these circles kind of tied together in ways that if you decide to leave one protocol system, ones that it's tied to, you may have to leave all of those. Like, right, if you have protocol overlap in your relationship with your family, and it's always been the case that everyone in your family, there's an expectation that you take on your parents' business, go to a particular church, live in a particular place. If you choose to leave any of those protocol systems, like decide to run your own business or something, or become a doctor or whatever it is, that may mean you have to leave some of the other protocol systems that overlap with it as well. Okay, so lots to say about autonomy, and you can think about how autonomy would impact your well-being within a protocol. I think generally that higher level of autonomy, improves well-being. However, if you feel unable to make a decision in line with what your autonomy says you want to do and you're fit, then you may have a lot of autonomy, but still be in a state of dysphoria. Okay, so I do want to leave us some time. So very quickly, I'll just mention the archetypes. I don't think I have a slide for that one, but I will tell you about these archetypes I think that you meet. Archetypes perform archetypal functions, like I talked about, things that are necessary to kind of support the protocol system or to
Angela, if I might quickly interrupt, I think some of us are not seeing the slides. I mean, we're seeing the last thing we're seeing is the protocol overhang bullet point.
No. Oh, yeah, right. I don't have a slide for archetypes. I don't think I put that together yet. Sorry. Yes, thank you. Thank you. So yeah, so archetypes, right, are the people that you meet who may be performing these archetypal functions. I'll go back to those so that we can see them. Okay, so I've come up with some awesome names, and maybe we can get some trading cards together for these people. We have, of course, maintainers. We have loyalty boosters or cheerleaders. We have the evangelists or the recruiters who bring people in. We have the enforcers. We have the kind of orienters or the welcome brigade. We have heretics, who are the ones who disagree with the protocol systems and maybe are the ones helping participants gain awareness or insight into the protocol system. They may advocate for change. They may rebel. You can have people who are leavers of protocol systems, refugees who leave searching for something better. Whole cast of characters that relate to the rules, the protocols of a system themselves. A sage would be someone who has both awareness and insight into a protocol system, while a drifter would be someone who has neither, and they're just kind of floating along in it. There are reapers. These are people who benefit from the protocol system, and there is fodder in the protocol system, and those are parties who are exploited by the reapers, right? And yeah, they're the fodder that the reapers reap, I guess. So I wish I had a slide for those. I did not have time to pull that one together in the end. I am a late slide maker person. I just have learned that. So yeah, so those are archetypes. And then finally, we won't have time to discuss this in detail, so I will just show you quickly the final part of the framework, which is the stages of the protocol system experience. Okay, so we have Pip before he has entered in the pre-entry stage. We have Pip at entry, crossing the barrier into the protocol system. We have Pip inside, participating. We have Pip exiting, and we have the aftermath, or I guess you could call post-exit moment for Pip. And you see I have all over the slide these squiggly lines, which are labeled, excuse me, which are labeled liminal states. So liminal states, right? That means that you're in a state of transition for change. And that refers to these changes in your knowledge or insight into the protocol system, your awareness of the protocol system, maybe your feelings, right? How it feels, your fit, your well-being, etc. I think you can have liminal states that lead you to, decide whether to enter or not, whether to do the preparation, like to take the SAT for college, or to train for this marathon that you're going to run with other people, or whatever. Your insight, right? Liminal states mean that the world is dynamic, the world there's a lot of people interacting inside the protocol system, but the world keeps changing outside the protocol system as well. So while you may have at one point in time had great insight into the protocol system, up-to-date knowledge, as the world keeps changing, your knowledge can become stale and you may be acting with less autonomy, right? So you can gain or lose both awareness and insight into the protocol system. Within all of these different decisions, I talked about in the paper, like the consequences and how difficult it can be, right? I think your moment of entry into a protocol system is absolutely crucial, and whether you enter it with autonomy strongly affects your fit and well-being within the protocol system, right? If you're auto-enrolled into something, why would it necessarily be a fit? The exit choice, what shows on here is exit, but these moments of truth that you have within a protocol system about making a decision about where to go, do you exit it? Do you stay in it as it is? Do you try to change your role? Do you try to change the protocol itself? So those are what I call moments of truth, where you have to decide what you're going to do about it. After you've exited, are you going to build a new protocol system of your own? Or are you going to join another one? Or are you going to go back into it because it's just too hard to leave in the end, too painful? You don't like the outside world after you've left. So that is an overview of the framework. And there's a lot of other things that I kind of like, philosophical questions that I could flag for us or tell you more about why I think it's useful, but I think I'd love to just open it up for discussion if that's all right. So thank you.
Amazing. Thank you so much for that explanation of your research over the summer, Angela. There's been some good discussion in the Discord thread. Anyone have questions or comments or discussion points for Angela?
I'm curious if people can see it applying to their own protocol system. Just stop me if you have questions or oh, Rafa has a hand up. Rafa, go for it.
Yeah, I was gonna say I thought it was quite interesting. I really thought about the dysphoria and how that applies to kind of like different types of career pathways as well, or different types of like regulatory environments that you might find yourself in, and like how you might not like agree, but you can't really get out of it. So I thought that was very useful. I really enjoyed the concept of the aftermath of the protocol, or the protocol overhang. That was something that I hadn't really thought about. And then as a question, which I'm curious about, did you ever come across an example of where a protocol that you thought about, like you pretended to leave, you never actually left? So like you just kind of like re-entered, or like believed that you had actually left, but you're actually just still inside of it?
Yeah, I'd want to think about that, but I definitely experienced for myself, right, that scenario where I think I've left, but I haven't really left, and I keep on doing the things. I think maybe because of the protocol scars or something that have been left. That's a good one. I want to think about that more and possibly integrate that.
Like I was just thinking right now that I can imagine a situation where someone in the US, like you leave like a town and you go to another town just to realize that that town is exactly the same as like the town that you left.
Yeah.
You just like thought you were leaving from one town to the other, but it's exactly the same like protocol, just like in a different like locality. But I thought it was quite interesting. Appreciate it, Angela.
Yeah, thank you. Dorian. I can't hear you yet.
Usually takes them a
Them,
second to
I'm
get
just
unmuted.
stuck. No, I'm mobile, so I can't. I
You look
couldn't
like you're
get
just
at the-
outside, leaning against the wall somewhere. Is that
Yeah. No, I was just at the pool.
okay?
Yeah, no, I just wanted to just remark quickly that it was a really interesting and comprehensive kind of typology of like the kind of social effects of protocols in general, and I really appreciate the thinking. And it was just a comment that I didn't have a question at this
Okay,
time.
thank you. I appreciate that. Chanel.
Hello, yes. I'm curious, this may be kind of an obvious question, but with your background as a lawyer, when you're talking about protocols as kind of unconscious rules, how does that compare with the disciplinary domain of law where rules would be more explicit and written down?
Sure, and I may not have said this clearly, but in my presentation, but I do consider protocols to include not just kind of like silent or unconscious or implicit ones, but also everything from laws to very elaborate regulations to policy manuals and everything to fit into this as well. Yeah, I would put that in there.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So just kind of some of what I've called complications as I'm continuing to think about this. One of them being, I think the framework kind of takes the position that more autonomy is better. Like that if everyone had insight and awareness of their protocols, then that's a more desirable place to be. People would see that they're being exploited or that a system is not a good fit. And maybe like well-being could be increased by people finding things out about their protocol systems and making a change, ideally to increase their well-being or changing the protocol system. But you know, maybe that is not a good default stance, right? Maybe we do need protocol systems where people act without a particular way and participate in them without knowing, without having deep knowledge. Maybe the world falls apart in anarchy if we aren't just rotely kind of following these rules. And then just one more thing. I mean, just thinking about ways that this could be applied, right? I think it could be maybe you do a yearly protocol assessment, kind of like your yearly physical, where you identify your protocols, you measure your well-being, your fit, and your autonomy for each of them, where you are in the stages for a protocol, etc. Venkat.
Yeah, this was, like Dorian said, interesting and very comprehensive as sort of a map of phenomenology. And I think you covered, like, there's a whole 80-20 thing going on here, I think, where you covered the 20% of the phenomenology that accounts for like 80% of what goes on. And in the Discord chat, I think a lot of us were throwing ideas out, and that sort of like starts to flesh out what feels like a long tail of other stuff that kind of belongs in there somewhere. So I think you'll find that some of those comments useful.
Great.
But I was trying to think about, like, we are all at a very early stage of thinking about protocols, and I'm trying to map it to like other like revolutions and domains. And if you think about like physics, it started with like Tycho Brahe first observing the heavens systematically and making all the orbital sort of position estimates, and then Kepler came up with like some initial orbit geometries that worked to account for them, and then finally it took Newton to like propose laws and conservation principles that explained how it all worked out in very elegant ways. It feels like what you're laying out is somewhere between the Tycho Brahe and Kepler stages of understanding, where you've kind of like laid out a lot of the observations that I think all of us resonate with, and the beginnings of like the orbit geometries, like, you know, some of your archetype ideas might be considered orbit geometries. But the reason I was thinking specifically of this is, for example, in orbits, you have comets that are in long elliptical orbits. So we think that they just go away, but they really come back after a long time. There are orbits that like swing by and never return, like hyperbolic orbits. So to get to that stage, you kind of have to theorize more. So this is, I guess, a challenge to everybody listening to this talk, which is if you take this map of like the phenomena of participating in protocols, what kinds of like laws or speculative conservation principles might you apply? Like one thought that came up in the Discord, I think, is it's generally easier to enter a protocol than leave. Like exit conditions are harsh, ranging from like death for apostasy to like breaking contracts is harder than entering into them. So that tells you that being in a protocol is like being in a gravity well, and escaping it requires like escape velocity, right? So I imagine somebody could like look at your essay and like figure out, maybe it's you, maybe in a future project, like figure out a compact way of describing these like Newtonian laws of physics of participation in protocol. So I'm just trying to lay out the grand challenge. You started out by saying like you swung for the fences, and I think you kind of landed in like the innermost fence, but there's like more fences out there that can be swung for.
No, I agree. I think my goal ended up with being for this project to just get it down, right? Just to say these things that they're said, and there's a way of talking about them. And then I think threads can be pulled on in every facet of the theory and challenged and developed and all that. So, yeah. And of course, you know, I put a big disclaimer in my paper because I am obviously far from the first person to think about how people systems work, right? People have been doing that forever in anthropology and sociology and game theory and philosophy and psychology and everything. In this project, I was just trying to say what I think, and then in the future, maybe it can be connected to, oh, well, it's kind of like this theory in this way, right? This is just getting it out there.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Angela. Want to thank everyone for joining us, especially those who weren't in the Summer of Protocols program. Jenna and Ben, curious if you guys have any reflections or thoughts on Angela's work here. I'll give you a moment to raise your hand if you do. Otherwise, I think we can wrap it up here.
Josh, this is Jenna. I'll pop in with really quick, Angela. I felt like you were describing my whole childhood. Being born into a family situation and a lifestyle, you know, the whole thing. We're learning how to opt out politely. It's been an interesting game. So thanks for that review.
Great. Yeah. This is a personal
like
and an intellectual project. Yeah.
Right. And at the extreme of a protocol where there is no exit, like that's a prison. So I find myself reacting really strongly when people talk about protocols, because I feel like, oh yeah, I'm going to get locked in. So finding those edge cases and how you can break out of them in a way that suits, because obviously we have to have agreements on how we do lots of things. You can't have none of them. So I think this edge case domain is where the really interesting stuff is happening in all the studies. Thanks for joining today.
Thank you.
All right. Well, we are at the top of the hour. So once again, thank you, Angela, for presenting your work for us and for all the research that you put into that work over the summer.
Thank you. Thank you for the support.
Yeah,
And
we will be back in 2 weeks, Wednesday, October 11th, with another guest talk from Joanne Yates. So we'll see you in 2 weeks, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.